Hands up.
Guru
Complete.
Kariye.
Should we begin now?
Hi,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
sir, right.
Please do. Please
Okay.
do.
Okay. So, good morning, friends. Nice to see so many people again on Sunday morning. I'm also thankful to Mr. Gopalan, who has very kindly agreed to deliver a talk today. We have heard him earlier once, uh, but I'll briefly introduce Mr. Gopalan in case people don't remember. Mr. S. Gopalan is basically a chartered accountant by profession. And while working in the industry, he says he was fortunate enough. I'm sure we all are fortunate to hear Krishnaji. He came in contact with J. Krishnamurti and also heard his talks around 1980. He and his wife Shobhaji both were parents of the Valley School in 82, and then they joined as a teacher in the Valley School, Bangalore. Mr. Gopalan is about 70 years old, and he resides in the campus of the Valley School. He has written two beautiful books, and I was fortunate to read both of them. The first one is Bud to Blossom, which was published in 2019, that explores creativity. And the second one, which has come just this year, 1+1, Infinity or Eternity. This is about exploiting intelligence, exploring intelligence operating in our thought. With these words, I once again welcome Mr. Gopalan, and he is going to talk to us about discontent, whether it is benediction or curse. Sir, you are free to address us for about 15 minutes to an hour. And after that, if Dr. Gajanan Rao is here, he may make some observations. Otherwise, the floor will be open for participant to ask questions. So with these words, I once again welcome Mr. S. Gopalan. Yes, sir, you can go ahead and start your lecture.
Thank you, Dubeji, and pranam to everybody. When Sushil ji asked whether I would give another talk, and I said yes, he said then subject bataiye. And he also we started talking on WhatsApp. And he made one observation. He said, आप तो कैंपस में रहते हैं? I said, हाँ जी. तो आपको बाहर का दुनिया तो पता ही नहीं. He said something in this vein, and that started a train of thought in mind. And from that I said, okay, let us talk about discontent, and I will weave in Sushil ji's comment into the talk at an appropriate time. It will be good if we have a lively discussion after this, because I think discontent is something very scary. Is there any time when you have not been discontented or dissatisfied in your life? As a child, as a student, as a young adult, in middle age, in old age? Is there any time when you have not been discontented? And has this discontent been a problem? Of course it is. It brings uncertainty, it brings a lot of discomfort. If we cannot have it, we think it would be a peaceful existence. At least we think that. Some of you may have a pet or the chance to have observed a cat or a dog at close quarters. If we look at these animals, food is their primary motivator of activity. If food is available and a sense of security is available for them to stay, they don't look for too much activity. For hours together, they can just eat, sit down, and just close their eyes and sleep. They're able to do it. Kittens, puppies are much more curious and restless till they are a few months old. Then they get into this train of just eating and sleeping. Young children also are very similar. Till the age about 5, they are restless, full of activity. And then they also get into the stream as they become young adults. So both these kittens and young children are able to be completely involved in what they are doing for that moment. Even if that moment is a very short span of time, they are restless, but they are not discontented. Now, we know that man is an animal, at least his brain has come from the animal. His brain has remnants of the animal brains. In fact, human beings are called Homo sapiens, intelligent primates. Now, in the 18th century, there was this Englishman called William Smith who was building canals in England, and in the process, he collected fossils. And then he observed the fossils which are layer upon layer, and he came up with the understanding that the earth was not built in 6 days and 6 nights. There was geological evolution which had brought the earth to where it is today, and this process of evolution continues even now. The Himalayas are growing even today. Then, about 50 years later, Darwin came in with his theory of biological evolution. And one of the things that Darwin predicted was that psychology would become evolutionary too. Krishnamurti raises a very fundamental question here. He asks, is psychology evolutionary at all? If psychology is evolutionary, then it should be possible to get rid of discontent bit by bit, gradually over a period of time. So, if we compare the human being and the animal, there are some distinctive differences between the two. But the most distinctive difference is that the human being is perpetually discontented. The animal doesn't seem to be discontented. So, this discontent, is it physical or is it psychological? Now, again, if we look at human living, how do we know that we are alive? Everything comes from the senses. So, sensory response receptors respond to contact with the world, and then they send in a stream of sensations to the brain. And when the sensations come in through the brain, perception happens, and then recognition happens, and all that. So, if you count the number of sensory pulses that come in, it comes to 500 million or so in a day of 24 hours. So, is it possible? How does the brain handle such a large input data that's coming in? 500 million pulses. So, the brain has a very simple way of doing it. Brain, including thought, it doesn't look at every pulse. It only looks for change in pulses. You can experiment with this very easily. If you were to listen to a monotone, any musical instrument, just a monotone, how long can you listen to it? Before you know it, you fall asleep. So the brain, if there is no change in the sensation, the brain just goes to sleep. It's very similar to the display screen of the mobile phone. If you notice, if your mobile is not continuously being used, in 25 seconds, the screen switches off. It's a way of saving electricity. So, unless there is an excitement for the mobile, the screen doesn't show. And the human brain is also in the same way, is it not? If there isn't an excitement, human brain goes to sleep. And the brain physically, the body has no problem with going to sleep like that. Someone else has a problem with going to sleep. And that is the person who is operating the brain. Our egos, our identity, self, me, mine, this has a problem when brain goes to sleep, because it is awake only when the brain is awake. If the brain goes to sleep, ego is compelled to, is switched off. It can't be alive. So this makes it clear that discontent is psychological and it cannot be gradually reduced. If anything happens at the psychological level, it is in that instant that it happens or it doesn't happen at all. And this tells us why we need this perpetual variety. Variety is the excitement that keeps us going, keeps this self up. So the self, as we can observe, has no way of knowing that it is alive, except somebody telling me that it is alive. So there needs to be reaction, there needs to be stimulation that tells us that we are alive. So it was interesting to watch during this pandemic when the first exodus of migrants happened as they were going back to their hometowns. In the south, in many of the big cities, the government had made arrangements for the migrants to stay because their work input was required. They arranged food, they arranged shelter, but after a while, the migrants said, "Humko ghar jana hai." So when they were asked why, they said, "How long can we just eat this rice and dal?" So even they needed a variety. So variety, we say variety is the spice of life, but without variety, it's extremely difficult to live. So that is the driver of this variety, is it not? This whole inability of our thought to remain with one continuous sensation. Now, I talked about very young children. They used to go to school from the age of 5. Now they go to school from the age of 2.5, even if it is called a play school. What is the basic attempt in all schools from preschool, nursery, kindergarten, junior school? Is it not somewhere or the other to manage and tame the discontent, restlessness of the child? Sit in one place, do what he is told, then he is manageable. But in the process of doing that, the natural curiosity is also smothered, is it not? So, if we want to encourage the curiosity to remain, can you have the curiosity without the discontent? So, discontent has been a problem of humanity from the time man came on. And there are two distinct approaches from the West, which at least I classify it as two. One I call the Graham Bell approach. You know, Alexander Graham Bell was the man who invented the telephone. And it was Graham Bell's statement, quote, "Concentrate all your thought upon the work at hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to a focus." So focus and direction has been of extraordinary importance to human beings. And that in fact forms the basis of all education systems. What is the objective of focus and direction? That is the way you can acquire, you can gather, you can keep adding. And from this background, you get proverbs like "a rolling stone gathers no moss," because you want to be able to acquire. But has right through the history of man, this process of acquisition, has it eliminated discontent? No, it has not. So then there is the second approach. This I call the Edison approach. You know, Thomas Alva Edison was the inventor of the electric bulb. He was a prolific inventor and he created many inventions, not just the bulb. And in his diary, he recorded, "Restlessness is discontent, and discontent is the first necessity of progress. Show me a thoroughly satisfied man, and I will show you a failure." So, it is this kind of discontent and restlessness which has driven many of these inventors and scientists. But if you observe their lives, they have not been happy, nor have they been comfortable with that discontent. They have to be continuously inventing something new. If from this prize they have to get the Nobel Prize, if there's a bigger prize, they have to aim for that. They need that recognition. So you can see that they're always seeking more, more, more. Whether it's recognition, a sense of conquest, or the feeling of having solved a problem, they're always seeking something more. So just that approach also doesn't seem to have sorted out this problem of discontent. And if we look at our lifestyle today, whether it's education or whether it's the social environment or the technology, everything facilitates smothering discontent. Our mobile phone today, without a smartphone now, it's very difficult to live, right? The tariff for a smartphone is 200 rupees a month. That's nothing. For 200 rupees a month, you get 28 days of unlimited calls and 1 GB of data. So you're encouraged, if you're not talking to somebody, to browse, look at the YouTube, see some video available, and you have people like Netflix and Hotstar. They have uploaded all the sitcoms and the movies of the last 30 years. You can spend the rest of your lifetime watching something or the other. Apart from that, we have our traditional escapes, alcohol, drugs. So somewhere, technology is also saying, just live with that. Don't make a problem of discontent. We have given you enough ways to fill it up. So right from the young age, we have been encouraged to, in a sense, fill up discontent, smother it, be comfortable. So the question comes, who is it that needs this perpetual search for stimulation? And the answer is very clear. It's not the organism of the body. It's the ego, the I, the sense of identity, which is always seeking something to new, and therefore the discontent is right there. So can any attempt to fill discontent ever succeed? And that leads to the next question. Do we really want to fill discontent and end discontent? If you have seen somebody who has Alzheimer's or who is in a coma or some kind of a vegetative state, you don't see any restlessness outside. They can't show you any indicator. Does it mean they are not discontented inside? We don't know. We can't say. Do we want the vegetative state? Most certainly not. So, on one side, we want to smother discontent, but on the other side, we don't want to be a vegetable. So, unless we understand the root of discontent, there can be no finding a solution to this problem. So, this is the human opportunity. Only human beings have discontent. Only human beings want to end conflict, fear, sorrow, suffering. Only humans search for security. And discontent must continue till security is found. This is the human opportunity available to man alone. So that leads to the next question. In what is their security? So this is again a question which we live with right from the time we can start thinking for ourselves. We move through the stages of material possessions, eventually to understand that that doesn't give you security. Bank balances don't give you security. Owning multiple houses don't give you security. Livelihood skills don't give you security because the requirement for livelihood is changing so fast. Qualifications have no meaning. People keep introducing me as a chartered accountant. I feel very embarrassed because I think 30 years ago, I stopped reading all those professional magazines. I couldn't understand them anymore. If you want to understand it, you have to be continuously reading, studying, because the laws are changing all the time. So Where is the security in being saying that I'm a chartered accountant? I can't do any of the things which a chartered accountant can do. So the uncertainty remains. So where is their security? Krishnamurti made an interesting statement in Sanen in 1965, which I find extraordinarily relevant for us today. The statement goes like this, quote, when there is greater outward security for the individual as a social entity, as in the Western world, where there is security for practically everyone, there is a correspondingly greater demand for inner security, isn't there? Now, we have, those of us who have at my age, we have seen what the social environment was 40, 50 years ago in this country. And we have seen the progressive affluence and standard of living and comfort of living that we have all enjoyed. Has it not created greater insecurity for us today and a greater discontent? So, where do we look for insecurity today? Today, we look for security in isolation. It begins with the isolation of myself, with my identity. That's the first isolation level. That moves on to personal space, larger houses. 40, 50 years ago, in the middle class Indian environment, there was no concept of a separate bedroom for everybody, right? In fact, in most middle class houses, families were large. There would be one place where all the bedding would be stacked. At night time, all the bedding is spread out in all the rooms. You sleep. In the morning, you pack it up again, and then the house goes back to being something else. The room goes back to being something else. Today, we can't think of that. We need to have separate bedrooms with a door which can be closed, right? So, that isolation is necessary for us. And you only have to extend it to what has happened in the last 8 months of this coronavirus. You see, suddenly in March we had a lockdown. After that, the lockdown was extended, and then the lockdown has been progressively withdrawn. If you notice, this time has been actually quite a comfortable time. We have money in the bank. Big Basket and Amazon deliver whatever you want to the gate, wherever you are. Where is the need to go out? We all have now either good cell phones, or we have this fiber optic cable. So endless 24/7 access to internet. So you have all the entertainment available. But even if you want to do some serious study like writing a book, or you want to study Krishnamurti, everything is available on the net. Where is the need for me to go outside of where I stay? So, and we are seeing the effect of this today right outside. The unlock program has allowed schools to start. No school has started. Every time they want a school to restart, they say, let's do a survey with parents. And parents says, we don't want to send the children. But it's not just parents. The interesting thing is, some of our teachers find students are saying, we don't want to come back. We are getting more time today. We are able to do our studies better. What is the, once in a while we'll come back for our friend, but even for friendship circles, we've got the contact. Where is the need for us to come back to the school? So I don't know if, as an aside, I don't know if those who are into education are seeing that this knowledge-based education was always meaningless. It became more and more meaningless over the last few years. And perhaps in a few years, it would have gradually worked out its course. The pandemic brought it to a sudden halt. What is coming in its place is not better, it's infinitely worse. Because this internet has come in, access has come in, the illusion has come in that by typing in some questions on Google and getting the answer, education has happened. And it further encourages you to remain isolated. And wherever you have a little spare time, it says here is entertainment available, exciting entertainment. There's no need to remain quiet at all. This is the way it is going. So the existing model of educational institutions, they are facing a real crisis in front. I don't know if they see it. Because all you have to do today is to remove this barrier that you can write an examination only by joining a school. People will step out. Next year, I understand some of these big industries are getting into digital education. They're going to offer you packages right from home. You can accumulate whatever information you want. And if education is only acquiring a paper certificate based on answering a few questions, you don't need to go to school. So there's an existential crisis that is in front of education today. Unless the education becomes more meaningful. And this is where Sushilji's comment, this is what Sushilji's comment started off. He said, "Aap campus mein baithe hain, you are very comfortable." It's true. If you now invite me to come to Indore, I will say, why not just do it in Zoom? It will save a lot of money in traveling, effort. You see, there is somewhere a fear. This medium is enough to communicate. Why interact at all with the world? So this is the biggest illusion, that isolation gives me security. It prevents illnesses from coming in. It's the biggest illusion that we are working at. And there I have a real challenging question for ourselves. We have these large campuses in the Krishnamurti schools. Krishnamurti had his vision. Why he wanted these large campuses, he understood. I don't know if we understand that. But we live on these campuses 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. Has our fear ended at the end of the stay here, or has it increased? I think if we have stayed long enough here, we are unfit to go and live in the city now. We can't live in the urban environment anymore. We need that physical space. We need that sense, but more than that, we need that sense of isolation. In that is the security for us. So, is discontent any less within these bubbles? No. Discontent is still there. At the same time, we say, we know that we don't want to become vegetables. So, which way do we go? In this matter of culture, Krishnamurti said something very interesting. I just read this passage, quote, "Do you know what it means to be discontented? It is very difficult to understand discontent because most of us canalize discontent in a certain direction and thereby smother it. That is, our only concern is to establish ourselves in a secure position with well-established interests and prestige so as not to be disturbed. It happens in homes and in schools too. The teachers don't want to be disturbed, and that is why they follow the old routine. Because the moment one is really discontented and begins to inquire, to question, there is bound to be disturbance. But it is only through real discontent that one has initiative." So, last time when we spoke, Harsh was here, and one of the comments he had made was, when you listen to Krishnamurti, don't listen to the words. Now, what does this imply? What does this imply when you listen but not to the words? And why do we accept a statement that Krishnamurti makes like this? Is it because we have given him a certain authority? That's what we would like to think, but I don't think so. And I would like here to differentiate between authority and trust. If you go back to your own lives, how you came into contact with Krishnamurti the first time. Either you came upon a talk of his, or some book of his, or somebody recommended you to listen to him or read him. But it ultimately was some talk or book. These were the two ways which would have brought you in contact with Krishnamurti. And when you read anything of Krishnamurti or you listen to him, there is a ring of truth that comes in. You don't logically deduce it, but it's very clear that this person is not talking by logical deduction. He is talking from something that he has seen. This feeling gets conveyed. And I think this is what is meant in going beyond the word. Can you get the feeling from where that communication is coming? And this comes through very, very clearly. Now, the first time you listen to Krishnamurti and he says, psychology cannot be evolutionary, can it be evolutionary? You think about it, you have some doubt, you are skeptical, but over a period of time, you come back to it and you confirm it for yourself. So that ring of truth brings a trust. And once that trust comes in, anything that comes from a person whom you trust, you will tend to listen. Is that authority? Because in trust is their belief. So this dividing line, when the trust becomes authority, is a very, very gray area. But I think it is possible to watch when it happens. When we identify the statement to the individual persona, is that not that moment when authority begins? So who is the persona after all? It is just a body-brain complex, which is a medium like the mobile phone through which the message is coming. Why do we give importance to that body-brain identity? So if we listen to that statement which is true, it remains true. Where is the authority that it has? And therefore, when I read Ramana Maharishi, when I read Bhagavad Gita, when I read the Upanishads, when I read the Buddha, in all these I get that sense of truth. They are not authorities. And I don't need to compare them with what Krishnamurti is saying. But the ring of truth comes through from all such people. And these are the people whom I use the expression seers. Somebody who has been able to go beyond the boundary of thought intellect and talk from a level which is higher. And somewhere there is a non-verbal communication that happens, which communicates that truth. So I won't say that they all automatically become authorities. We know this word bhakt is a very deep word in us. So it's a very dividing line and it's very gray. It's very difficult to make out when it has happened. Perhaps we need to be questioning all the time. Are we really believing or is there a ring of truth? Now in traditional scriptures, they put one precondition for crossing beyond. They said you must have a yearning for it with an intensity similar to the intensity of the desire for a breath of a man who is drowning. Is that not discontent? So the expression is different, but I think that commonality runs through all these. So what do we do? So there's an interesting passage in Commentaries on Living. It's called Contentment. I just read a little bit from that. So this person asks, then what is one to do? And Krishnamurti's answer is, stay with discontent without desiring to pacify it. It is the desire to be undisturbed that must be understood. This desire, which takes many forms, is the urge to escape from what is. When this urge drops away, but not through any form of compulsion, either conscious or unconscious, only then does the pain of discontent cease. Comparison of what is with what should be brings pain. The cessation of comparison is not a state of contentment. It is a state of wakefulness without the activities of the self. At some point, you must have cleared your shelf, cleared your cupboard, and disposed of all old paper. It's phenomenal amount of paper that we accumulate. Old bills, old correspondence, old books, notebooks. And we go on tearing it up and it becomes a pile. Now we can't throw this in the garbage because there are things in that you wouldn't want others to read. So you have to burn it. Either you make a pile and burn it, or you put it in an incinerator and burn it. I don't know if you have ever burnt a large stack of paper. It's a very revealing exercise. It takes only one match to set that paper on fire. And within a minute, the flame goes out. The superficial paper burns, and then it smothers the flame. and the flame goes out. If you want to burn all the paper, you have to get a stick. And then you have to keep turning the paper, the unburnt paper, you have to expose it to the air. And the heat from the paper that has already burnt is enough. This paper will catch fire and the flames will leap 1 meter. Again, in a few minutes, the flames come down. Again, you have to turn the paper. And you keep doing this, and over maybe half an hour or 40 minutes, every single paper in that pile is burnt to ashes. Nothing is left. And to me, that gives a lesson of two things about which we have a lot of discussions. One is this stick which is poking and turning the paper, is it not the action of the eye? And with that eye, the discontent. And the second is, to burn that pile of paper, it takes certain time. Not the time for something to become, but the time which a seed takes from the time a seed is sown till it sprouts, becomes a plant, flowers, fruits, and withers. There is a certain time it takes. So it takes its time. That time is involved. So what I would like to round off this discussion, this opening is, we have a tendency to blame the ego as the cause of all our ills. Maybe it is the cause of all the ills, but because we have this separation of the thinker from the thought and this identity of me and mine, we are discontented. And discontent, is it not the flame which makes you keep stirring that pile so that whatever is inside is burnt? So is it, and that is why I ask, discontent along with the self, me, mind, the ego, is available only to human beings. Is it a benediction or is it a curse? Because it seems that this is what will open the gate to freedom. So is this not the human opportunity? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gopalan. Very beautifully placed. Thanks a lot. Jain Sahab, I think Dr. Rao had joined.
Dr. Rao seems there, but as usual, he has a problem with that. Because you have not emailed him correct. If you email him, then he can connect with his laptop. Otherwise, he feels some problem with it. So we can go with question answer session now.
I think Srinesh wants to ask a question. Let me unmute him.
Dr. Gajanan Rao is very much there, but
can I be heard?
I am not.
Yes, you can hear you. Yes.
Audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please.
Yeah, I can't see myself.
Okay. It doesn't matter. You have to see us.
Can I talk? Can I say a few words?
Yes, sir. You're most welcome.
It's very refreshing to see Gopalan again. It is utter sincerity, uttering many valuable words. You're right, sir. You're very right. I think we are in illusions, different illusions, including I can't throw away one paper. They're accumulating like hell, and I can't see them burn. But I nevertheless want to send it away. This discontent is something very confusing to me for a long time. Although I read about it, I'm glad you said something rather clear about it, but I am not very clear. I'd like to ask you, is this discontent that he's talking about refers to some kind of an inner urge to find that? Apart from the discontent, we have several things. We get them, we are still discontent. The bag is full of the discontentness and what we got to relieve it. But is he referring to that discontentedness, which is a kind of a burning fire deeply inside on every occasion, whether you can know they are known? I want you to explain that.
Sir, I'm nobody to explain. I can only share my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, what we normally mean by discontent,
Yeah.
this dissatisfaction,
Yeah.
is that not really from the insecurity of the ego? I think if I get a job, I'll be happy. When I get the job, then I start cribbing about working conditions. I crib about colleagues. I crib about not getting promotions. When I get the money, then I say, what's the use of this money? I'm still dissatisfied. So, somewhere we seem to be searching for a state of non disturbance. But is not the disturbance itself arising only from the division caused by the I separating itself? Now, we can imagine what will be that state if the I doesn't separate, but that's only imagination of the I only. So that's not possible. But I think every one of us have experienced that moment when, at least after the moment, we realize the I was quiet and what a beautiful time it was. So then we say, is there some way the I can become quiet? And we look for a method, we look for some anything, a chant, whatever, to make you quiet. But that's not going to give it, because that's all again this planned activity of thought of the self itself. But this discontent that drives us to do everything that we do in the consciously, is it not the discontent of that deep insecurity of the self itself? And that
That I
insecurity,
agree.
yeah.
That I agree. But is there a deeper discontent cannot be put out?
Not 4 minutes ಸಾಕು Okay.
You have found that. Isn't he referring to that discontent? You said, let it be. Don't destroy that. Let that discontent be. It has been there for years and generations, and till that is not put out, you have found that. Let the act of being aware of or looking forward to that introspection or insight, which can relieve that. I'm asking, you're talking about a discontent which is never ever quenched, but will keep on accumulating. But is there a discontent which can clear you completely of all the accumulations, if it finds that? Is it not referring to that discontent also? And do we?
Yeah, it's just the, I think words are different. If I can see, the river is flowing, sir, with its current, right?
Yeah.
When I take a handful of water from that river, I hold water in my hand, not the river.
Yes.
The river cannot be held in the hand. So this energy which is there, which we call life, that energy can never be smothered, and it is that energy which makes our body seem alive. It is that energy which is also providing our intellect and the ego with its energy. So that energy can never be smothered. Can we just let that energy act? We keep interfering with our intellect, with our ideas, with our duality, saying that I want to control. But can we ever control that energy? So is this not where negation comes in, that you can't control it? If you stay quiet, if I stay quiet, then whatever is. Then is there the discontent that we understand as discontent.
Right. That quietness is rather being alone rather than being lonely. The quietness which comes by itself. I have not experienced it. Maybe a moment somewhere. But you're right. We are isolating. Gadgets are helping us. We don't shake hands. We don't say hello. We don't make merry. Um, that I think we have lost. Relationship, as you said, 10 beds in a house, common living, beds go there to the bedrooms, and it's really enjoyable thinking whether you look at it at our past. I understand all that you said, but I won't prolong this. This discontent to be alive in you, which will not smother till the last step. Is it something, an illusion I'm imagining, or is it that discontent can further give an energy to lift yourself to that state of knowing the unknown? Am I confused?
No, sir, you're absolutely clear. So what you're only saying is, can I stop interfering in that energy of life all the time, which is what I'm trying to do with my effort. So
Good. Yeah, I understand. It's sort of synonym here. Hmm. So you want us to not be distracted or be aware of distractions?
So in a particular talk, Krishnamurti explained it very well. He said discontent is a flame. Can you hold that flame in your hand? Huh? Can you hold that flame in your hand? Let it burn. Why do you want to escape from the pain of burning? No. You understand the challenge involved.
I get that. I really, that is the word I couldn't get, the flame of discontent. Yes. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think Trinesh wants to ask a question, and then Mr. Dini. Trinesh, go ahead, please. Dinesh, I think we have lost him. So, Mr. Dini, you want to put up your question to Mr. Gopalan? I think there are quite a few hands, so we can start with Mr. Ramarao and then Meenu and then Vagmare and so on. Yes, Mr. Ramarao, go ahead.
Dubedi, they are asking to be unmuted.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, my question is that can we understand this discontent is eternal?
Sir, if the discontent is connected with my search for my identity and the insecurity that arises from that, so long as that exists, the discontent must exist, must it not?
No. You see, when you say that it is a my discontent, by doing some extra effort, I can fulfill it.
No, if the discontent is because of the self I, so long as I exist, the discontent must exist. Only I feel discontented, is it not?
Got it, sir. So you mean to say that this I itself is a discontent, but the discontent is not a means like a eternal.
It's one shadow of the I, if I may put it that way. Is it not?
I don't know.
If you put an object in front of the light, it must throw a shadow. So this shadow
Okay.
which I is throwing is discontent. Will it not throw that? Can there be ever be a state where the I does not feel discontented?
Yeah, it is true. But you see, in the so-called in the universe, everything is means like a moving.
Yes.
Everything is evolving.
Yes.
Do you mean to say that this is also one part of um, 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 unfulfillment is a one part of the discontent?
As you said, in the universe, everything is moving. The river is always flowing. But I don't want to flow. I want to be able to stand alone and say, I am where I am. Is that not the problem? I cannot be moving, because when you're moving, there is no I. See, how do we know that there is an I? You have to pause and say, I am seeing, which means at that moment I am not seeing.
Yeah, I could see something. Thank you.
Can I ask a question to Mr. Gopalan, sir?
Please, sir.
Sir, I think that Mr. Krishnamurti is referring to a discontent, which is discontent per se, and not the discontent which is related to your simple dissatisfaction of the worldly things and all. Because what energy you referred, which is giving the energy to everything, it is also giving energy to ego to go beyond its limitations, because
Yes.
it is giving energy to the ego that it is limited to some, it has got limitations, and there is a duality involved and all that. So it is prompting actually, in fact, that to ego that ego should check that where there is any possibility to go beyond.
That's
What do
right.
you have to say?
Exactly, precisely. So the discontent is only pointing out to you that the disturbance is not coming because of the energy. Energy is there, but you are obstructing the energy all the time. So why do you want to control it? Why do you want to get rid of the discomfort? You see, that is where the challenge is. If the flame is in your hand, it's very difficult to stay with the flame and say, let me experience the heat of the burning. Right? Our tendency is always to move away from it. That is the challenge. To see that it is only I who want to escape from the discomfort. I don't want to be disturbed at all. I want everything to be certain. But in a flowing universe, can anything be certain? It is perpetual change. And change is the scariest thing of all.
And in case of the worldly things, there can be a level of discontent. Say I am thirsty, I got the water, and then I got satisfied. But in the case of psychological ring, you create something, and unless you reach to some your incompetence level, then only you get satisfied.
That's right. So there is a difference between restlessness and discontent. That's what I was trying to say. See, when the dog is hungry, it goes looking for food. That is driven by the physical state. Yes, that is not I don't call that a discontent. Discontent is, I am hungry, I've got the food. Now I say, but there are only 3 varieties here. There is no dessert. There is no this. So this is nothing to do with hunger, really. Not physical hunger, at least.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Murthy and then Mr. Ramgowda. Mr. Murthy, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Thanks
morning,
for
sir.
a nice talk. I have a question. I would like to know what is the difference between discontent and dissatisfaction. For example, if I don't have a car, I am dissatisfied. I make some money and buy the car, and I am satisfied, at least temporarily. So dissatisfaction is arising from the self, that is the ego, the ego thought process. Whereas discontent, does it belong to the universal part of the human consciousness, and discontent per se as it is there, and it has nothing to do with the dissatisfaction.
Yeah. So what is this discontent per se? As you said, I want a car, I get a car, temporarily I get satisfaction. Then I say,
Yeah.
now this car is getting old, I need bigger car, I need later model. So the satiation is very temporary. So there's something else which is saying, look, this is not enough. And I'm saying that is the nature of the self, because it is always looking for that quality of the energy of life, but it can never have that quality. Therefore, there will always be discontent so long as I is active. Is it not? Because it wants to become that energy which it cannot.
Sir, what is the difference between dissatisfaction and discontent?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then
Dissatisfaction can be ended because you are satisfied.
Yeah, correct. Agreed.
But after a while, again the dissatisfaction rises. What is
Correct.
causing that?
Agreed.
That is the discontent.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Satyanand Ramgopal, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
sir, I'll take the question next, sir, after another person, sir. I just need some time.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have any other question coming up? You had a question you want to ask now?
Shashank ji is raising his hand.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, can we discuss a little bit more on what is the difference between the I, the ego that we are talking about, and what we actually are? Like, we are referring to some I and ego, and we are referring to something that we actually are. That is why we are making the distinction. So I'm not sure about this, sir. So
Okay.
thank you, sir.
See, there is something called life which energizes us. I think that is self-evident. And we see that, when a baby is born and somebody dies, what happens at that stage of death? Something disappears. So have we not always identified life with the body, the person, which is essentially the body plus his intellectual capability. This we call the person. But if we look at it for a moment, none of these exist without that energy maintaining itself. The body is continuously decaying. So when we say body is alive, actually, what do we mean? The new cells that we are making exceeds the old cells. That is life. If the new cells stop making, then you start decaying. And this whole illusion that of identity of me, mine, I, the person who is thinking, does it have a foundation or is it an illusion? Now that's something that I have to ask and find out for myself, is it not? But both these depend on that same energy, that one energy of life, which is keeping everything up. But is not our problem all the time really that I want to be in charge of the show? I want to know that tomorrow my lunch will come. I want to know that next year schools will open. I want assurance. What does it matter if school and college is open or not? Today it's holiday, stay at home. Tomorrow if it opens, go to work. What is the problem? But I want to be thinking ahead all the time, is it not? This virtual world which I want to live in, and which is what is the jail in which we are being trapped by technology and entire society. I don't know if we see that. The more of these gadgets, the more of this, we are getting trapped more and more in this. It's more difficult to come out today than it was 50 years ago.
So I just have a small follow-up question there. So as I am able to understand what you are saying is that there is something in the whole of existence, when we are talking about the whole existence and non-existence, maybe there is something that is a physical fact, which is like which is we can kind of, which is there, and then there is something like an idea which is just in the mind. Okay, so are we responding to the physical fact, or are we responding to some idea? Is it that what you are referring to, that if it is a response or a reaction to an idea, then that is what is being understood as the I, and if it is a response to a physical fact, that is what is being considered as something that is observing what is.
Yeah.
If
In a
I'm
s-
making myself clear, I'm
yeah,
not
you're
sure.
making yourself clear. I would only ask, how do you know that you are alive? How do you know that you are living? Do you need any validation for that? Or that is clear, it's self-evident to you, right? So there is something there, isn't it? You feel alive, you feel living. Is there a
So we may choose to call it an energy or the vitality or something of that sort, which is
that
not which is something that is not visible, the formless aspect within us.
but it's not an idea. I know I am alive. That's not an idea,
Yes,
right?
yes, sir.
But you see, that's a very gray area, because when this idea starts, it's very difficult to spot exactly where it starts. Is it not?
Yes, sir. That is what this discussion kind of is for, maybe. Thank you so much, sir. And the presentation was
Thank you.
beautiful, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, sir?
Yes, please go ahead.
So, I mean, what I understand, what Kay is trying to talk about discontentment is, it's not regarding getting a bigger house or a car or better lifestyle. Here, I see discontentment as an inquiry into what life is. Life is dynamic. It changes from moment to moment. And therefore, there's a learning process which is going on. It doesn't end. Learning never ends. That was one. That was the one question, sir. The second question is, like, when I see the truth in what saints have said, all seers have said, or other great people have said, including Bhagavad Gita and the other holy books. All of them have said you have to become something. But whereas Krishnamurti has said something else. In becoming, there's a problem. He says, "Can I remain with what is?" And the third question, sir, every religion has said desire is bad, or especially say Hinduism. But whereas K has said desire is life itself. How do I understand this, sir?
Yeah. So, see, the thing starts from here. First of all, I don't want to get in too much into religion, because what we understand as religion is really the institution. We don't understand really what the original seer was. So let's not get into religion. That will become a different kind of a discussion. But if I am satisfied with what I am today, would there be any inquiry? Would there be any learning? Why would I want to move? It is dissatisfaction which drives. And that is where the desire comes. Is dissatisfaction different from desire? What is it that I desire? An image of something, of some experience that I had, I want to get it again. But is it ever possible to get it again? That happened. What you may get is a new experience, but you can never repeat an experience that happened. But we are always searching for a repetition based on the memory of something that we had once, whether it was now, long back, whenever. So that is why to understand what it means to stay with a desire, you don't have to give in to a desire. You don't have to say desire should end. But is it possible to just watch that desire? What happens if you don't give in and if you don't suppress? What happens? To be able to watch that desire. That watching is only in the present moment, is it not? It's not a thinking process.
So when I say desire should not be there, isn't it a non-factor?
Yeah. See, desire should not be there is an idea. And that idea comes only from intellect. So this, any positing, saying that it should be or should not be, is from the intellect. If there is desire, that's the fact. Desire is. Can I just remain with it? Why do I ask this question or say that it should not be there? Because it is creating discomfort. If it was not creating discomfort, would I ask a question at all about it? But the nature of the human being is that even if you have all the food and the shelter, still that is not enough. There is something at the bottom which says not enough, and that is that discontent which rises up. So
that is at the physical level, isn't it, sir? That's at the physical level.
No,
having food and other things that desire to have.
No,
that's at functional. Yeah.
Is it only at the physical level? Because every time you are hungry, if you get the same rice and dal, right? Third day you say, I must have a variety. Is that physical? Why do I want variety?
I mean, I'm looking for a change. I mean,
why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do I want that change? Because the stimulation which I get comes only if there is change. So I want stimulation. That's the fact.
But like for example, I mean, it's a security. That insecurity is what actually has brought mankind to where we are now.
Yeah.
That insecurity is essential functionally, but psychologically it is becoming a problem. So can I look at that? I can't say insecurity is bad or good.
No.
But yeah.
Wait, you said that insecurity is necessarily physically. Is insecurity necessary physically? Can you say that I will have insecurity at this level of my life, but at this level of my life I will not have it? Is such a division possible? Why is insecurity required at all? See, we are very used to this. When you meet a parent for the first time, he says, "Thoda dar to chahiye na." You must have a little fear, otherwise how will you? So what we want is conformity. We want to set the pattern and everybody should conform. For that you need fear. Right? Why do we need insecurity at the physical level at all? Is not the body intelligent and capable of taking care of itself? Do I need to tell it how to digest its food, what to do, when to get up? Do I need to do it? But we are used to doing that from a very early age, are we not?
True.
This is where I think we need to be able to experiment with ourselves. I mean, we have things that we have got so used to. If you keep that mobile phone away for a few days, what will happen? First day we will feel lost. Second day we will feel lost. Third day we will start getting adapted to a situation where there is no mobile. If we listen to our body, it will tell you when to eat. It will tell you what to eat also. Because certain foods, it says this is not for you. It tells you in different ways. We say, but it's very tasty. Ye chance kahan milega? So we indulge. Do we not?
Savita ji has a question, then Mr. Shankar Rao and Sudeshna Sinha. Yes, Savita ji, go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, lot of stirring. Thank you so much. You always leave me in too many inquiries. I'm really happy to be here. And sir, when I see a discontent is continuous, eternal. But also if I agree to yes, it's natural and accept it. Can I then see it, hold it in my hand and accept this energy which is in constant movement? And can I just leave it, let it be alone and remove the, I mean, can I quieten the I and then not feel the peace, sir? Won't I feel the peace if I remove the I? And can I start enjoying this energy? Let the flame burn and bask in it. Can I drop the I and can I get harnessed into it, sir, to take me to excellence, to take me to a Satchit Anand, because that is the energy that I'm actually looking for, isn't it? But the I is coming in the middle and creating a lot of duality, so I don't really get there, isn't it?
Can I
Should I
drop
ask
the
you
I?
again? No, no, the awareness of it can.
So I can only be aware that the I is standing up all the time. It's saying, look, let me move from this. I want a change. I want this. I can only be aware of the activities of the I and how it is motivating me to push in certain directions. I can't say the I should end, right? That's again another idea. But I can watch how I am driven by the I. And that watching has its own effect, does it not? So can I just be watchful? Every time something happens, can I be aware of what is the motivation behind? What is the motive behind? What's the cause of it? Why am I being asked to do this? Not as so many questions, but can I just be aware of it? Which means that I can't do multitasking. Whatever I do, I have to put my complete attention on what I do for that moment. Whereas the whole social environment is encouraging us to do multiple things so that you don't ask these questions.
Yes, so sir, in fact, I can feel this energy and it can elevate me or transcend me into a very peaceful self, isn't it? If I can really, I don't know how to articulate it. I mean, I'm getting what you say. So there is this energy and it lets me transcend, and without this energy there's no, like, a discontent, like somebody just said about the car thing. See, this thing will take me to the, if I fulfill one desire, to be desireless is another desire. It's a trap.
That's right.
So if I can observe that and hold it in my hand and say, okay, here comes another one, and just let it be. My mother used to say, भोग है बेटा, भोग लो, भोगने से छूटेंगे, भागने से नहीं. So is that it, sir? Is it so simple?
So what is it that I really need? I need food, I need some shelter, right? But see, this simple thing of food, shelter, clothing, we have made it into such a large, complicated world and it never ends. But how much do I actually need? And that's where I think it comes to a lifestyle of how I'm living now. That's all that matters. If this is necessary for me, it's necessary. I have to have it. That's it. But is it necessary? Do I really need it?
Getting out of the non-essentials and distinguishing between the essentials and non-essentials. Like yesterday, we were discussing Khalil Gibran, and he said, "Oh my God, like there are some people with need and some people with greed, and the people with greed will go home with a lot more, and some people, because of that, would go home empty-handed." Isn't it, sir? Isn't it?
No, but that
Share everything
again
we
it's
have.
mind which is saying this is essential, non-essential, right? For me, what is my situation today? Why do I need to compare it with somebody else? For me, this is necessary. I need it. I have it. But I think if I just stay with that, I will soon see that my needs are also changing all the time. And in observation, I think you find your own equilibrium.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the thing is to slow down the process, hold it in hand, not try to escape from it and accept it. So this energy is there. We have to rekindle the flame, as you had said in our lectures. So, if we can keep this flame going of this energy and keep observing, there'll be no kind of a, confusion or chaos or conflict, because we are accepting. Yes, it will go on eternally.
See, this is the gift given to us. We are human beings
Yes.
who are discontented. That is the gift. But do we see it as a gift?
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Mr. Shankar Rao, please go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, good morning, Gopalan sir.
Good
Before
morning.
I ask my question, I would say we are really happy to listen you. The way you put everything without much difficult words and all that. We request you to have your email ID in the chat box. We like to keep in touch with you.
Okay.
Now, my question is, how to understand to stay with conflict without a movement of thought? Why I put this question is whenever there's a conflict, I try to understand the conflict to come out of it. So when I try to understand, there is a movement of thought. So without a movement of thought, just to stay with the conflict, how to understand this, sir? Thank you.
Yeah, but why do I want to stay with conflict without a movement of thought? See, is this not again some idea that I have that if I have thought, it's a problem? So why do I want that? There is at this moment this thought. Can I just remain with that and watch what caused this thought to come up? A thought doesn't arise without a motive, without a reason.
Sorry to interrupt you. To watch what the cause, again, movement of thought comes in, right? To watch what thought causing, you said just now.
Yeah. So
is it not movement of thought, sir?
I don't want to get into the words of it, but when you are attentive, is it thought which is attentive?
I don't understand, sir.
Sir, when you look at a tree or the sunset, right? When that sensation falls on the brain, how do you know that it's a tree? It's only for the knowing that thought comes up, is it not? So before we know it, the word has already come. This is a tree, this is a banyan tree, I saw this 6 years ago. The conversation starts. Can I just be aware of the fact that there's a conversation running and all conversations are the realm of thought?
Okay.
For
so
what?
You want me to?
No, I'm asking for the process of looking. Do I need the conversation to be running?
We don't need.
We don't need. Then why is the conversation happening?
Because of habit, it is coming. Maybe the words.
But that moment to see when the conversation begins, at that moment to watch it. Not post-mortem say, oh Lord, the conversation has started again. But can I watch that moment when the conversation starts? Which means that my complete attention has to be on what I'm doing. I can't be doing two things at the same time.
So before before opening my window, I know that there is a tree. And before opening the window, I should mentally prepare that the moment I watch the tree, the conversation will start. So I should be attentive from this moment itself, something like that.
How do you know that there is a tree outside the window? That is a memory of yesterday. Maybe somebody cut it in the night. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? See, we are so habituated to anticipate that we only look for the meeting of that anticipation. That's the training we have got right from a very early age, social setup, education. We are trained to anticipate before it even happens. I don't know if you have watched these quiz programs. Whoever hits the buzzer first gets the chance. So before the question is asked, 5 people have hit the buzzer. That's our situation, is it not?
Thank you. I think
Sir, in your talk, what I really liked is you said focus of thought. Focus. You use the word focus at some place. How I understood is when the sun rays put through a convex lens, they focus at one place and they burn it. I took it in that sense, and we can use it for the attention also. What JK uses. Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, that example you gave of the sun's rays focusing through a lens is used by every teacher to tell the child See, unless you focus and concentrate, right, you cannot move forward. This is the argument for concentration. Is there a focusing that will happen when I don't keep asking this? What will happen? The sun's rays will come in, and then what will happen? Let me watch. You mean to say that the sun is not capable of burning unless I intervene with that lens?
I guess
See,
so. I guess so. Without the convex lens, yeah, you cannot burn, obviously.
So already I have decided I want it burned. See, I have already posited the result. Therefore, I have to get to that result. But to not to posit a result, what does it mean to live like that?
Okay, we can go to Sudeshna Sinha now. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, yes. I don't know much. I would like to ask sir, like I am teaching in a school and I would like to examine what the discontent, like suppose I understand that there is too much of competition, and when I'm entering a class of 50 students, I am instilling fear in them. So there is discontent in me, but in my system where I am working. So is this also discontent which has led me, to inquire more, read more of Krishnamurti and what he is talking about in education. So is this also, can we say this is also a discontent where whatever is happening around me, I know there is something, there is something which is, it should not be this way. So my question is like, can we say this is also a discontent?
So this is the point which was coming through again and again. People were asking, is there not a discontent that is beyond the discontent you are talking about, a discontent which is far deeper? I'm asking, the same thing I'm asking, there is an energy, right? That energy makes you do what you're doing, and that energy is far beyond us. When I come into a class as a teacher and I say that, okay, today's lesson I have to complete this, you have to remember so much. At that moment, a little voice says, why should the fellow remember all this? But then I say, if you don't do it, this week's lesson will not happen. Next exam you will fail. Therefore, let's compromise. But deep down, there is a voice asking, why should you just know all these facts which are in the textbook? So a discontent starts building up that just the mere accumulation of information surely is not education. Because that discontent is there, perhaps tomorrow you will make a change in education. If you don't have the question at all, why would you make any change? So in anything you do, in any fact of life, you will find such a question comes. In anything you do, why do I need a job? I don't want to become a babu. Why should I go into a babu's job? My life is, I would really like to play music. But then music may not bring me the money. So you see, the conversation is running. And it is this conversation which is dictating what we should do. We are really not able to work with that, what our voice is telling us. We're afraid. Because if you don't, then what will happen? What will happen? Or dunya kya kahegi? In different ways, it is this question. That is the deep insecurity. But the I must be insecure. It can never become secure. Only when we understand that the root of this I is in insecurity, there is no security there. And so long as it's whatever it touches, like the Maidas touch, it will bring a shadow of darkness on it. But will we not understand that in through our own life experiences?
Anand had a question. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Mr. Ramgoda, you have a question?
No, sir.
Okay.
Vermaji, unmute yourself, Vermaji. Unmute yourself, Vermaji. Ask. This should be the last question, as you generally ask last question.
My question is simple enough. A lot of emphasis has been given on stillness of mind, emptiness. freedom from the known. Whether such a mind is a contented mind, with reference to contentment and discontentment, such a mind which is required to see things as they are.
Mr. Gopalan.
Yeah. So, is contentment the opposite of discontent? Or when there is no discontent, what is there? See, our mind is used to thinking in terms of opposites. If not this, it's opposite. When there is no fear, what is that state of abhaya? So when there is no discontent, what is that state? I can ask that, but I can't imagine what that is, can I? That is to be experienced.
Then, sir, I think there are no more questions now. So can we?
Only question remains with Gopalan. He has to come again because everybody is waiting.
आप फंसा देते हो सबको.
Yeah. Many people are giving note and everybody is happy about it. So you decide it. I am not saying today. I will ask you 20 days after. 20 days given to you. Okay? दुबे सर सबको थैंक्स बोल दें और दुबे साहब आपको मैं थैंक्स पहले बोल रहा हूँ और गोपालन सर ने बहुत अच्छा लेक्चर दिया. Thankful to him and thankful to everybody who is here. Special thanks to you from Patna.
And
thank you.
Having another session with you sometime. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
बंद करो इसको.